Celebrate this day. Let's welcome from our Pretoria studios a youth activist, Nompendulo Mkhatshwa. Nompendulo, a very good afternoon to you. Happy Freedom Day. Do tell us, what does Freedom Day mean to you, particularly as a young black woman in South Africa today?
Thank you very much for having me. Happy Freedom Day to everybody at home. I think for me as a young black woman, Freedom Day reiterates the fact that I have the liberty to express myself. I have the liberty to utilize the rights that I'm given by the Constitution. However, I must acknowledge the fact that Freedom Day or the idea of us having freedom does not necessarily speak to us having equality, right? So as Reverend Jesse Jackson would say, is that we fought for us to be free in order for us to fight to be equal, and that's where we are at this point in time in South Africa. So as a young person, I think I truly and deeply acknowledge and appreciate the efforts that were taken by our forefathers to fight for us to get to a point where we can enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy at this particular time, but I acknowledge the fact that we are not equal.
Let's talk about that. Let's expand on that, Nompendulo. I mean, what do you think still needs to be done in order to ensure that South Africans are free from inequality and that discrimination based on gender and color that we just mentioned?
All right, so let's speak about gender, for example, right? So, and as we speak about what still needs to be done, we're not taking away from what is being done or what has been done and the progress that has been made, because I think it's very important that as a society, in moving and being honest with ourselves, we need to appreciate what has been achieved and say, okay, how do we add to it, right? So how do we add to it? So for example, the inclusion of women, when the Freedom Charter speaks about the people shall govern, I think it's just as important for the women to govern, for the young to govern. So we want to see an increased presence of women within structures of leadership and governance and political parties, leadership of companies in the private sector. And I want to argue that there must be proportional representation. So I don't necessarily agree with the whole idea of 50-50, because to an extent I want to believe that the majority must rule. So that's the first issue. And when it comes to young people, let's look at the issue around free education, and we speak about the people shall have security and housing and comfort. In us saying that young people will have access to free education, we need to ensure that young people will also have a place to sleep once the bulk of them are within institutions of higher learning. And so in this system where we do have freedom, in order for this freedom to be felt in its true essence, we need to ensure that there is equality within the system. And so you don't want to have a whole lot of students having access to education, but there's no equality in the sense that some may have a place to sleep at night and some may not have a place to sleep at night. Those are the first, sort of things that come to mind from the question that you've asked.
And Nompendulo, I mean, looking at how the different races celebrate this day, particularly in this country, do you see in the near future all South Africans joining hands, not just for show, but as an actual united front? I mean, we've seen an ever-rising number of racial incidents in the country, and it seems we just haven't really rooted out the sins of the past.
Well, the issue of social cohesion in our country is a big issue. And, having been in Cote d'Ivoire over the past couple of months, when there's sort of political turmoil, civil unrest within a country, it takes a long time for for there to be cohesion. So, I mean, in Cote d'Ivoire, it's a predominantly black country. So the issues of cohesion are not along the lines of race, but are along the lines of political association, along the lines of class. And so they, many may want to feel that in a predominantly African country, it's easier to have cohesion because there's no dynamics of race. It's not the case. So this sort of pattern of communities and societies not being able to sort of get to a state of kumbaya is common, right? And my view is that we need to continue having a conversation around the disparities that are found along the lines of race and class. So, you know, we need to talk. People need to get it out there, because the way that people are addressing their issues is in a very violent manner, and it's, you know, sporadic. It's people in a shopping center. It's people in a drive-through of KFC or whatever it may be. It's violence that we're seeing in your farms and etc. So people, it's as if they're not having a space where they can talk about what is really burning them, and we're sort of pushing everything under the carpet in, you know, the sort of ideal of Rainbow Nation. So we need to talk about it, and we need to address the true core issues that affect the people of our society, right? So we need to deliver in terms of basic services and basic needs, so that we don't push our people into a point of frustration where they end up sort of letting out their frustrations in violent manners, and sort of, you know, a figure that resembles the legacies of why our people are going through the challenges that they're going through now, is when they come across that sort of figure, then our people attack the figure instead of attacking the actual issue. So we need to sort out our issues from root bottom. We need to address the basic needs of our people, and we need to have constant conversations around social cohesion within our country.
Thank you so much, Nompendulo. Well said. That is youth activist Nompendulo Mkhatshwa joining us from our Pretoria studios, and she was also weighing in as a youth activist on how they celebrate and view Freedom Day today.